My name is not important, nor is my birth date or address. What is important to know is that I was once an ordinary being, just like you. The daily exposure to the horror and indecencies performed by society and the human race as a whole can change a man. It changed me. The intrusive rise of world war, poverty, murder, crime, and economic devastation have all somehow twisted the human condition beyond recognition, beyond repair. Now, I call this place home, safe within the confinement of these four walls, to share with you another twisted tale of an otherwise ordinary mind. Adam Peterson hated to fly. The recent increase in the number of airline accidents and the ceaseless fear of terrorist activity only added to his personal phobia. The part-time disc jockey sat patiently reading from his Kindle and enjoying a late evening dinner at the Landing Strip, the steakhouse and pub located near the security gate's entrance. Adam was enjoying a medium rare porterhouse and relaxing with a few Southern Comfort and Cokes. It was also a tactical observation point from where he could monitor the ominous dark clouds that were forming in the skies outside the terminal of JFK International Airport. They were creating a blinding wall that made it impossible to see anything other than the control tower's flashing beacon lights. The occasional lightning streaks that appeared simultaneously with the deafening thunderclaps gave the grounded flyers a glimpse of the forthcoming rainstorm that was wreaking havoc all along the eastern coast. Adam Peterson reached into the pocket of his sports coat and pulled out the boarding pass he had crammed in next to his leather wallet. Tonight he was taking an overnight flight to a small isolated village somewhere in the hills of Scandinavia. "Can I get you another cocktail, sir?" the middle-aged waitress asked. Adam looked up at the woman and shook his head. He almost choked on the chewed piece of meat that was in his mouth when he noticed the outline of a mustache above her scarlet-painted lips. Adam handed his waitress the bar glass and blurted, "You better make it a double, please." He watched the woman walk away and couldn't help but think to himself how such a hot ass could end up on a butter face. Everything about her was perfect, but her face could have used a makeover miracle. Adam laughed so hard that he missed his cell phone alerting him to a new email. He was inhaling the final morsels of the overpriced and entertaining dining experience when the announcement over the system alerted flyers that Flight 76 was boarding at Gate 27. Adam looked at his watch before downing the last drops of the cola concoction. The meticulous man checked his boarding pass one more time to be sure of his departure. 9:40 p.m., right on time, he slurred to himself. The fearful flyer threw money down on the table, gave a final wink to his waitress, and headed through the food court to the TSA security checkpoint. There was an active swarm of passengers buzzing with activity in front of the Daily Moo ice cream bar. Adam had every intention of turning right at the end of the corridor to arrive at Gate 27, but like many times before, curiosity got the best of him, and he turned left toward the crowd. He pushed his way past an elderly couple that had mistakenly gotten trapped by the growing herd, an overweight woman who was wearing an obnoxious red velvet hat, and finally squeezing between a pair of gothic teens that resembled some sort of twisted offspring from the Addams family. "Everyone, back the hell up and give the child some room." Adam slung his backpack off and dropped to his knees. Lying on the floor, shaking and gasping for air, was an innocent little boy. The child's olive-toned skin had begun to shift to a pale blue, and his watering eyes were beginning to roll back into his socket. Adam realized that the boy was going to choke to death unless he started to administer the resuscitation techniques that he learned as a teenage lifeguard at summer camp. He removed the boy's black stocking cap and loosened up his matching scarf. "Come on, kid, breathe." Adam exhaled another puff of life. 1, 2, 3. He continued with alternating compressions to the chest. Within seconds, the boy started to show signs of recovery. He was breathing on his own, and his pale blue skin started to reflect his natural hue. Adam lifted the boy onto his feet to remove the knitted mittens. The rescued child was still shaking uncontrollably when his clenched fist released a spray of assorted change that fell to the floor. "What happened?" Adam asked the girl, who was standing behind the ice cream counter. Danielle, as the purple name tag on her Daily Moo's apron informed the public, was crying. The woman in the red velvet hat handed the girl some napkins from the silver canister near the plastic sporks. The high school soda jerk wiped the mascara streaming down her cheek, readjusted her lip ring, and started to play with the extensions in her highlighted hair. Danielle cleared her throat and spoke. The kid ordered a scoop of vanilla ice cream with some chocolate syrup and extra jimmies. I put it all together in a large chocolate-covered waffle cone, and then I just handed him back his change. I really am not sure what happened next, but he just reached for the cone and, like some kind of wild animal, started to hunch over. He fell to the floor, started sweating and dry heaving. I thought he was going to hurl. Then I heard this creepy noise that sounded like a quiet howl. The young girl paused, remembering one important detail. "Oh yeah, I freaking swear I saw..." She looked toward the child's mother, who was looking amongst the crowd, trying not to draw attention to herself. "What did you see, Danielle?" Adam asked with piqued curiosity. "Nothing. I saw nothing." She shook her head and continued. "When I was finally able to make it out from behind the counter, he was all knotted up and convulsing. That's when I called airport security. People just started to gather around the poor kid, but no one offered any help." The discomposed teenage girl began to cry even harder. Adam turned to the frightened boy and reached out to unzip his protective winter jacket. "You gave everybody here quite a scare, little man. What is your name?" Adam smiled and held his arm out, looking to shake hands with the frightened little boy. He was taking notice to the layer of sweatshirts beneath the boy's jacket when Adam had his hand maliciously bitten by the little monster. "What the hell is wrong with you, kid?" screamed Adam. He flung his arm back to his side. The child ran toward a tall woman in the crowd wearing a black leather coat and sunglasses. "Does he belong to you, lady?" someone in the crowd hollered. It was too late. The mother and child had already disappeared into the crowd. Adam picked up the forfeited change and noticed the blood trickling onto the floor. The woman wearing the red velvet hat kindly handed Adam a wet towel, smeared with hot fudge sauce and caramel, from behind the counter. Adam placed his dress shoes, belt, and his silver chain with half of a red heart-shaped pendant swinging back and forth into the plastic tub. It was the perfect match to the chain that belonged to his ex-wife. Adam rolled the gray tub next to his carry-on luggage and proceeded through the security. The body image x-ray machine flashed and sounded an annoying beep. "Please step back and empty your pockets into the tray," asked the security officer. Adam willingly obliged. His hand was still wrapped in the make-do tourniquet as he reached into his dockers to retrieve his BlackBerry, car keys, and the collection of bonus coins. He dropped them into the wire tray. "Step forward." This time Adam passed through without a hitch. "You might want to get rid of these before you return." The agent held a genuine silver dollar in Adam's face. The reflection from the coin made his eyes start to tear, or so the naive traveler thought. "You don't see many of these around anymore. This little collectible might have just kept you from making your flight," the odorously offensive officer laughed. "Thank you, I will." Adam snatched the coin from the man's sausage-like fingers. It was 10:12 p.m. Adam took his window seat directly across the aisle from his red-hatted friend. He couldn't understand or just didn't care why the woman insisted on wearing the immoderate eyesore aboard the plane. She returned his inquisitive glare with a simple smile. As the night flyers continued to board Flight 76, Adam Peterson could feel himself beginning to perspire. His stomach was tossing like a catamaran during a tropical storm. Thinking that it was just symptoms of his controlling fears, Adam leaned forward to unzip his backpack and grab some antacid tablets from the inside pocket. "Excuse me," a woman spoke with a tap to his shoulder. "Are you going to use this blanket?" Adam looked up and saw the little monster from the airport terminal alongside his mother. They were seated next to him. He just shook it off with a huff and a return trip to his backpack to retrieve his bottle of Advil. Adam's wounded hand was beginning to throb again. The aircraft lifted into the dark skies. He handed the freshly wrapped blanket to the attractive woman. "I suppose I should introduce myself since we are going to be neighbors for the next several hours," laughed Adam. "My name is Adam Peterson." The woman only introduced herself as Claire. "This devilish little creature is my son Honaya," she added. He poked his head up from behind his comic book. "Do you have something that you would like to say to Mr. Peterson?" she ordered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Peterson," the boy replied with an unconvincing smile. Honaya was a cute little 8-year-old with strong facial features that hinted at a Native American ancestry. He had a thick head of black hair that rested on his broad shoulders. Adam noticed that the child had a very distinct jawline, swollen and wide, that seemed disproportioned to his otherwise boyish features. "I do apologize for my son's uncalled-for actions earlier this evening. He tends to get scared rather easily. I suppose I have myself to blame," the mysterious woman giggled. "Well, I'd hate to see what would happen if he was ever terrified. Adam returned the explanation in such a tone as to make it clear that he had no hard feelings. Boys will be boys, my mom always said. They both laughed until the stewardess interrupted. Are you all right, sir? She inquired. She seemed concerned over the flushed look that was apparent in Adam's face. I suppose that I could use a fresh bandage for this. Adam lifted his wounded hand from beneath his own complimentary blanket and revealed the crimson-colored bandage to the flight attendant. Mommy, I'm hungry, Honaya shouted. The agitated mother of the little boy ripped open a hand wipe from her purse and wiped away the saliva that was drooling from his mouth. The irritating throb in his hand, along with the lack of comfort in the tiny space, made it difficult to relax. Adam Peterson popped another 2 Advil and decided to try and rest a while. Would you like to take one of these, Mr. Peterson? Claire asked. She was holding a little wooden pill box filled with over a dozen yellow pills. They are just some Xanax that my husband prescribed for me to take the edge off. You see, I too am afraid of flying, she laughed. Adam believed the mystery woman he only knew was Claire and accepted her gracious offer. What time is it? Adam Peterson awoke from a very disturbing sleep. It is 1:20 a.m., dear, the woman in the red velvet hat answered. How is your hand? She looked towards Claire. I think that it is such a shame the way some parents let their little ones just run around loose and unsupervised like wild animals. Honaya looked up at her and growled. Adam was surprised to find that the other passengers aboard the plane were very quiet and motionless. The majority of overhead lights were all extinguished, except for those glued to their laptops or iPads, and the window shades all closed. He glanced at his watch again and realized over 3 hours had passed. Adam arose from his seat, trying not to disturb the resting mother and her son. Mr. Peterson, I don't mean to intrude on your privacy, but you really don't look very well, Claire whispered. I'm sorry, did I wake you? Replied Adam. He felt a little unsteady on his feet. Adam sat back down and buckled in. He started to feel that queasy feeling in his stomach again. He needed air. Adam couldn't breathe. He reached for the complimentary barf bag just in time for the chunks of digested meat and scotch to detonate from his esophagus. Claire gave him a handful of the moist towelettes to clean himself with. Adam wiped his mouth and laughed. It must have been that airport food. He adjusted the vibrating pillow underneath his neck and reclined his seat. I never asked you, Mr. Peterson, what brings you to Scandinavia? Questioned Claire. It's Adam, and my Uncle Philip left me an inheritance. I am his only surviving relative on my father's side of the family. Adam unintentionally let out a yawn. Excuse me, Claire. Anyway, I have a very important meeting with the lawyers in the morning to discuss the distribution of his estate, he finished. Well, doesn't that sound wonderful? You must be very excited. I really don't know what to think. Uncle Philip was apparently a complete whack job. I really never knew the guy. The last time I saw him was at my high school graduation with his assistant Greta. Adam leaned his head back and lubricated his tired eyes with a few squirts of Visine. He looked directly into Claire's honey-brown eyes and remarked, As a matter of fact, she looked a lot like you. My uncle was a retired anthropologist who specialized in animal behavior. He was a complete recluse who believed that high in the mountains of Scandinavia lived this society of werewolves who were planning to take over the world or some shit like that. That's crazy, right? Adam finished by asking, Are you and Honaya from Europe? My daddy is a doctor, Honaya blurted out. The obnoxious little child grew bored with his stack of comic books and climbed up on the back of his seat. I'm hungry, Mommy, he screamed. The aircraft began its descent. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. The captain began to prepare the passengers with the final instructions before landing. Now that we are all awake, how about we take a look at this beautiful country from the sky, Adams said. He slowly lifted the plastic screen. Appearing just outside the window was the brightest and fullest moon he had ever seen. Wow, will you fucking look at... No, quickly, shut the screen, Claire screamed as she leaped across Adam's lap. But it was too late.